Okay, so for this next one, we're going to combine a person with wings. If you remember looking at Keith Haring's work, wings are included sometimes on the baby. Sometimes they're added to the heart or the dog. So they're used in a variety of ways, and they definitely show up in more than one of his drawings. So we're going to look at just adding some wings to this. Okay, so this one looks a little bit different. We can either work more in this style, or we can continue using that kind of open C shape that we've been using. We'll try and do it a little bit more in this style just so you see a variation. So it's basically going to be an upside down U. I am going to bring it a little bit more. And then the next thing we're going to do is on this one, we're seeing some curvier effects here happening. I'm going to stick with the straighter lines because you're getting used to this style of drawing. So I'm going to curve the shoulders up a little bit on both sides. And then from here, I'm going to draw the arm straight up and do the curve for the hand. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to try and make them about the same length. Okay, and I am going to do a curve here and here, and then a straight line up into the arms. Okay. So a little bit different than the one we see over here, but again, remember, we're just practicing the technique, and I'm trying to adjust some of these for you so that hopefully they're easily understandable for you. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to add the knee. So we're going to do slight diagonal lines out on both sides. We're going to curve that and do a diagonal line down on both sides. Okay. From here, we're going to follow these legs. Often in Keith Haring's drawings, this is just a straight line here. So we're going to do a straight line there, a diagonal coming down from both of those, another straight line down. Okay, and then bring that curve of the foot out. Then we're going to bring those back up to here. Okay. All right. So the next thing we want to do is look at adding the wings. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections over there. So let's start by looking at this first one. So it's going to be about the same width as the arms, and it's about the same length or a little bit longer. I'm going to come over here and do the same thing. Okay, I'm going back to this side, essentially a letter U turned on its side. Do the same thing on this side. Okay. From there, we start to see these get shorter and come in more. So I'm going to bring it in lower on this U, curve it. And do the same thing on this side. Okay, and then from there we see a much larger curve, and then one more. So think of these as being much wider. Okay, and then again we see those lines that Keith Haring likes to put in there around the head and then to create movement. So I'm going to add the ones that he had here, and then bring them out here as well. So one straight up in the middle, and then 3 on each side. Okay, and then again go back in with our black Sharpie and erase when we're done. Okay, so we're ready for the dog, which again shows up in Keith Haring's work quite a bit. So for this one, I'm actually going to start with a longer rectangle. And the reason I'm doing that is if we look here, essentially the shape of the body of the dog is a rectangle. So I'm going to sketch that rectangle out, and then I'll go back in and make adjustments to it as I work. So I'm going to do it pretty lightly. Okay. From here, on top of this rectangle, we are seeing essentially a letter M. So we are just going to go up, bring this all the way down, and up and down again. Okay, we're going to come over here, and we are going to, I'm going to make this a little bit longer. We're going to add that essentially like a little square on top for the tail. I am going to come over here, and from the letter M, I'm going to come out on a slight diagonal, and it's a rectangle. And then there's this shape here is a V, so I'm going to sketch a V in. I'm going to come down and bring this down. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just put in the legs. So the first leg is a little bit diagonal, a little bit of an angle there, and then essentially coming back up in a rectangle again. This leg is a touch longer, a little bit more narrow down here, then comes back up. We have our back leg here that comes down from here, center line. Again, just creating a finished rectangle and over. Okay, so now we see the dog in that kind of Keith Haring style. Not identical to Keith Haring's, but pretty similar. And then again, here we see this repetition again of these simple symbols. And we know that when we see this, we can imagine that this dog is barking. Okay, so we can indicate the floor. We're drawing a straight line across. We can add those details if we want. You could go in and add the border with like a black Sharpie around there. I'm just gonna come in and finish this up, and then we'll erase my pencil lines. Okay, so this last one is a little bit different than the other ones we've seen, and there are other shapes that come up and other images that come up repeatedly in Keith Haring's work. And the more you study his work, you'll become aware of that. So sometimes we see things like spaceships, some other things which you could look into including. We're going to finish off our practice drawings with this image that we see, a three-eyed smile. So we're going to go ahead and use this box in place of this. Okay, so in the center of this box, we are going to essentially start by drawing an upside down U, pretty big. Maybe a little bit wider than what I drew. And we're going to finish it off here. Okay, straight line. Now, if we look at this, these kind of are in an arc, so they're not all exactly the same height. So I'm going to bring this next one, I'll leave a little bit of space. I'm going to bring it a little bit lower than this one. So again, thinking about an upside down letter U. And we're going to come over to this side and do the same thing. Okay. So these ones you'll notice are a little bit lower because I'm thinking about kind of that arc that was happening. Okay, once we have that sketched out, what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're essentially just going to trace that shape into the side. Okay, so I'm starting about here and I'm following that line down. Okay, so one more time over here. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a letter V or a triangle out of each of these eyes. So I'm going to sketch in my cut, my V. And then I'm going to go in and pull out the line so that I have a shape like this left. Okay. I'm using a really big fat eraser, so sometimes when I'm doing this, more gets erased than actually needs to. Okay, so we have that. We're going to put the finishing details for the eyes in using our Sharpie, so I'm not going to draw them in just yet, but we will be adding these lines in. Okay, so the next part is putting those eyebrows or eyelids right above those. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of the use of line in Keith Haring's work. Very simple lines used very, very effectively. Okay, from here, let's talk about the nose. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come under this eye. And if we look at his work, it's not exactly centered up. It comes from about here and a little bit past there. So we're going to put this line in. And then from here, we see a curve. The same thing on the other side. So I went from about here then we're going to come down here, do a curve, and then we're going to connect back up to these from here. So up and over. Okay. All right, next we're going to do the smile. So we're going to come with a line that's going almost corner to corner. I probably drew my eyes a little bit big. That's okay. And we're going to come down. We're going to do a line that follows this one. And essentially it's a line right down from here. So I'm placing that first vertical line right there. And then I'm just going to, let's see how many we had. One in there. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So here's our center line again. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I should probably space those out a little bit more. I can come back and adjust. Again, it's okay if you don't have your spacing 100% perfect. Okay, and then we're going to do the tongue. So we've actually done a tongue pretty similar to this before when we did the baby that was crying. So with one of our warm-ups. So we're going to come over like this. This next line's going to touch here and come down. If you have room, you can include that curve that goes beneath there. I ran out of room. Include these lines. Okay, and then of course, I'm going to go back in with my Sharpie and finish this up. Okay, and then the last detail is to come in here, and we see these lines were done on a diagonal. There you have it. 6 Keith Haring inspired drawings. Pretty simple, and I hope you enjoyed doing them, because you'll be needing to think about how you could adapt these drawings in your own work.